Hello class 8. I welcome you all in today's session of history. In today's video, we will learn about the Great Uprising of 1857. Historians refer to this revolt by different names such as the First War of Independence, the Great Mutiny, the Indian Rebellion of 1857, the Revolt of 1857 or the Sepoy Mutiny. The East India Company, basically a trading company, established itself as a political power in India in the year 1772. Its motto was to derive benefits out of territories rather than improving the life of the people. For over a century, as the British has been conquering the country, popular discontent and hatred against foreign rule had been gaining strength among the different sections of Indian society. The British introduced many expansionist and unjust policies to fulfill their intentions to strengthen their political power in India. The cumulative effect of these policies, expansions and administrative innovations over the year adversely affected all. The rulers, sepoys, jamindars, the peasants, artisans, pandits, maulvis, etc. were few among them who were adversely affected. The colonial policies of East India Company destroyed the traditional commercial fabric of Indian society. The highly unpopular revenue settlement left the peasants impoverished due to heavy taxation. The annexation of Indian state by company cut off the major sources of patronage of artisans and handicrafts, making their life more miserable. There were many revolts by the tribals of Madhya Pradesh, Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. These tribals were the Bhils, Kols and Santhals. They had lost their traditional rights of land and forest. In this map, you can see the expansion of British states. The areas in yellow are the princely states which they started capturing by different means like subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse or misgovernance. The East India Company's undue interference in the administration of princely states caused discontentment not only among the rulers but also the people. The educated people were now aware of the concept of equality, liberty and fraternity introduced to them through the modern education. The activities of Christian missionaries were looked upon with suspicion by the Indians. This discontentment resulted in a number of uprisings between 1767 and 1857. The most significant among them were the Great Uprising or Revolt of 1857. Several months of increasing tension preceded the actual rebellion of 1857. The Great Uprising of 1857 broke out in northern and central India in 1857. It began a mutiny of the sepoys, but soon engulfed wide regions and involved the masses. It was the first major attempt to overthrow the British rule from India. Now, let us understand the causes of the revolt. Now, we will understand the political causes, the social causes, religious causes, economic causes, administrative and military causes of the revolt in details. Lord Dalhousie's policy of annexation was aggressive and caused great discontentment among the Indian subjects and the rulers. His policy of doctrine of lapse and annexation of states on grounds of maladministration angered the people of India, especially of Awadh, which was annexed on the ground of maladministration despite being a loyal ally. By his policies of doctrine of lapse, he annexed Nagpur, Jhansi, Satara, Jaipur, Sambalpur, etc. Dalhousie also abolished the title and pensions of childless Indian rulers after their death and thereby annexed their territories. Arcot and Tanjore were annexed in this manner. Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, was not given a pension. He also hurt Nana Sahib and made Nana Sahib an enemy by denying him the pension. He also hurt the sentiments of the Mughal ruler Bahadur Shah Zafar by not allowing his successors to stay on in the Red Fort. The successors of Bahadur Shah Zafar were not allowed to use the royal title. The British showed no regards for the treaties they signed with the Indians. Treaties were twisted and broken to serve their interests. Now, let us understand the economic causes. The British has changed the entire economic structure of India. Changes were introduced to suit their needs. The traditional self-sufficient economy of village was wiped out. This caused resentment among people of all sections. The British introduced new land revenue system like the permanent settlement, the Rotwari settlement and the Mahalwari settlement. Now, let us understand the permanent settlement. This settlement was introduced in 1793 in Bengal and Bihar by Lord Cornwallis. Land was given to the Jamindars on the permanent basis. The revenue was fixed and had to be paid in cash by the Jamindars who collected it from peasants. If the Jamindar failed to pay his dues, the land was confiscated, means were taken away by the British. Under this system, The peasant suffered, the Jamindar benefited and became loyal to the British. Now let us understand the Roitwari system of land revenue. In this settlement, it was made by the Roits or the cultivators. The land revenue was fixed for 30 years. Now we will see what is Mehalwari system. The revenue settlement was made village by village or estate by estate with the landlords or the heads of the family. The Mehalwari areas also, the land revenue was periodically revised. These new land revenue system disposed a number of peasants from their land due to different causes. As a result, landless laborers had to seek employment outside the village. It disturbed the ruler setup by breaking the structure of self-sufficiency of the villagers. Whatever the type of land settlement introduced by the British, the peasants were the ultimate sufferers. The British wanted the revenue in cash, which brought misery and suffering for the Indian peasants. The peasants were exploited by moneylenders and jamindars. They hardly had any surplus food grain left with them. This led to many famines. The scarcity of food grains led because the peasants were forced to grow cash crops like cotton, indigo, poppy, jute instead of food grain. With the coming in of the Industrial Revolution, markets were flooded with machine-made goods. Indian industries could not compete with them and thus declined. The artisans, weavers and craftsmen lost their means of livelihood. When the Indian states were annexed, the administration was replaced by the company. This created unemployment among the court officers, which was the cause of resentment among the employees. Even landlords were often had their jagirs confiscated. There was constant drain of wealth from India to Britain. India's wealth was used to expand British trade and maintain their huge administrative staff in India. In 1765, the company acquired the Diwani of Bengal and thus gained control over its revenue. The company, even more than its servants, soon directly organized the drain. It began to purchase Indian goods out of the revenue of Bengal and exported them. These purchases were known as investment. Thus, through investment, Bengal's revenues was sent to England. The actual drain was even more, as the large part of the salaries and other incomes of English officials and the trading fortune of English merchants also found their way into England. During the tenure of Bantik and Dalhousie, thousands of jagirs of zamindars and talukdars were confiscated, resulting in discontentment among the people who had been loyal to the British. Now we will study about the social causes. The advent of the British rule brought Western culture with it. The Indians were alarmed by its spread and were suspicious of any changes. The British advocated many reforms such as abolition of sati, female infanticide, child marriage, widow remarriage. This caused discontent all over. These reforms were interpreted by Indians as the interference in the religious and social customs. At the same time, the work of Christian missionaries created fear and suspicion. The introduction of the railway and telegraph was viewed with fear and suspicion. They feared the British inventions. The introduction of Western education was also viewed as an attack on the Indian social and religious customs. Added to all this was the policy of racial discrimination. The Indians were treated with contempt by the British and were subject to humiliation in all walks of life. The sepoys in the company's army were dissatisfied. They were treated with great contempt by the British officials. In fact, they were discriminated against their British counterparts. They were paid much less salary and were denied promotions. Their boarding and lodging was also of much inferior standard. An Indian soldier called sepoy could not rise above the post of subedar. They were unhappy because not get any extra allowance. They were unhappy because they would not get any extra allowance or bhatta for serving in distinct land. These oppressive economic policies, aggressive annexation policies, religious and social interference by the British government were like dry firewood awaiting for lightened. This spark came in the form of the incident of greased cartilage. The British has introduced a new rifle Enfield for the sepoys. The cartilage had to be bitten off before use. It was rumored that these cartilage were greased with the fat of cows and pigs. This enraged the Hindu and Muslims. Both Hindu and Muslim sepoys refused to use this cartilage because this was against the religious beliefs of both Hindus and Muslims. So we can see that all classes of people, be it rulers or jamindars, talukdars, peasants, artisans, pandits, maulvis, all were incontent, unsatisfied and full of anger against the British. On March 29, 1857, the Indian sepoys at Barakpur refused to use the greased cartilage. They were forced to use the cartilage and load the rifles. Mangal Pandey, a sepoy at Barakpur, refused to bite the cartilage. He fired on two senior British officers, injuring them seriously. Mangal Pandey suits himself to avoid humiliating trial. However, he survives and put on trial and subsequently hanged to death. This incident infuriated the sepoys who started the revolt in Meerut on 10th May 1857. The soldiers marched from Meerut to Delhi. They killed many British soldiers and officers. Local sepoys also joined them. Delhi became the center of revolt as they proclaimed the Mughal king Bahadur Shah Zafar as the Emperor of India. They persuaded Bahadur Shah, the Mughal emperor, to become the leader of the revolt and proclaimed him as Shahanshah-e Hindustan. The rebels captured the city of Delhi from the British. Bahadur Shah wrote the letter to all the chiefs and rulers of India, urging them to organize a confederacy of Indian rulers to fight and replace the British. The uprising spread to central India and western Bihar and Rajasthan in the east. The storm centers of the revolt of 1857 were at Delhi, Kanpur, Lucknow, Bareilly, Jhansi and Ara in Bihar. The real strength of the uprising was the participation of the sepoys, peasantry, the artisan, labourers and the zamindars. There were many prominent leaders of the uprising of 1857. At Delhi, the symbolic leadership belonged to the Emperor Bahadur Shah. General Bakht Khan led the revolt of Bareilly troops. At Kanpur, the revolt was led by Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Bajirao II. Other important leaders were Kunwar Singh of Jagdishpur, the Begum of Awadh, Hazrat Mahal. In Jhansi, Rani Lakshmi Bai led the rebels and fought violently against the British. Rani Lakshmi Bai, famously known as Jhansi Ki Rani, was one of the leading warriors of the revolt of 1857 and a symbol of resistance to the rule of British East India Company in the subcontinent. Her original name was Manikarnika. A famous poem, Jhansi Ki Rani by Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, beautifully captures the bravery of Rani Lakshmi Bai. A few lines of the poem are: सिंहासन हिल उठा, राजवंशों ने भ्रिकुटी तानी थी, बूढ़े भारत में भी आई फिर से नई जवानी थी, गुमी हुई आज़ादी की कीमत सबने पहचानी थी, दूर फिरंगी को करने की सबने मन में ठानी थी, चमक उठी सन 57 में ये तलवार पुरानी थी, बुंदेले हर बोलो के मुँह हमने सुनी कहानी थी, खूब लड़ी मर्दानी वो तो झांसी वाली रानी थी. Rani Lakshmi Bai was married to Maharaja of Jhansi, Raja Gangadhar Rao. She vigorously fought against the British and gave away her life for Indian freedom. However, the uprising was short-lived. Soon Delhi was recovered by British. Bahadur Shah Zafar was imprisoned and exiled to Rangoon. His 3 sons were killed. The Mughal dynasty came to an end. the revolt had been crushed, the British Empire had survived. The revolt was fully suppressed by 1858. It had lasted for a year. Hundreds of rebels were hanged to death as punishment. Now let us understand the causes of the failure of the revolt. Though it was widespread, it failed to involve a large section of population and different areas of country. It could not take the shape of all India struggle. In this map we can see the places with the red dots took part in the struggle, while the southern India and the Rajputanas stayed away from the struggle. The revolt did not involve the masses. Important rulers like Holkars, Raja of Jodhpur, Scindias did not join the revolt. They instead supported the British. Many soldiers remained loyal to the British, like the Sikhs, Rajputs and the Gorkhas. The merchant, western educated middle class, new zamindars of Bengal and money lenders supported the British rule. The British soldiers were better equipped than the Indian soldiers who fought with outdated weapons. The British had experienced and competent generals who could lead them, whereas the Indian leaders did not possess the leadership qualities. The British were financially and militarily stronger. The revolt was not planned and organized. The British had the advantage of the post and telegraph. This helped them to communicate with each other, exchange messages, plan strategies and act immediately. Though the revolt was not successful, it was a turning point in the history of India. It shook the British government confidence in itself. It also brought the forefront Hindu-Muslim unity. It ended the East India Company's rule. India now came under the direct rule of the British Parliament and the Queen of England. The Queen's proclamation was issued, which stated that the welfare of Indian people would be looked after. The Queen's proclamation of 1858 stated that the Secretary of the State of India would be appointed. He would be responsible to the British Parliament. The British started following the policy of divide and rule to minimize the threat of any future rebellion. Doctrine of lapse was abolished. The number of British soldiers in the army was increased. The British government promised not to interfere in the social and religious life of the Indians. No new kingdoms would be annexed. Even though the revolt of 1857 failed to overthrow the British rule, it helped in developing a nationalistic spirit and generated a feeling of oneness among the people of the country, which inspired the subsequent stages of freedom struggle.